All right, let's do this. Oh, but I gotta feed these Linux users. All right, I got something for them. I got something for them. Okay, Linus Torval. Okay, I can tell he's joking when he did this, but anyway. Oh, by the way, hello viewers, me again. Another beautiful day. Yeah, hope your fluff senses work. Health and strength is good or excellent. What? Listen to this. Linus Torval, AMD Intel x86 levels are complete broken garbage that needs to die. Okay, whatever you say. It says here, Linus Torval, the father of Linux, is probably one of the most expressive tech bosses out there. Well, of course you got Bill Gates. Don't let Bill Gates fool you. Imagine being in a boardroom meeting with him and something don't go right, or what's his name? What's his the creator of Apple? Can't even call his name out right now. Anyway, says here, Linus Torvald, the father of Linux, is probably one of the most expressive tech bosses out there, and oh yeah, Steve Jobs out there. His takes are almost always very interesting, whether you agree with them or not. He said, while discussing changes and additions to the new Linux K config, and that's kernel configurations, Bill Torvald expressed his annoyance and disapproval of AMD x64 or X3D, I mean x86 underscore 64 architecture levels. He wrote, one second thought, let's not go to x86 64 micro architectural levels. It's a silly place. It's a silly place. The whole V2, V3, V4 extension naming seems to be some crazy glib artifact, and is stupid and needs to die. He said it has no relevance to anything. Please do not introduce that mind in the kernel source. I have no idea who came up with the microarchitectural level garbage, but as far as I can tell, it's entirely unofficial and it's a completely broken model. There is a very real model for a microarchitectural feature, and it's the CPU ID bits. Trying to linearize those bits is technically wrong, since these things simply aren't some kind of linear progression. And worse, it's a simplification that literally adds complexity. Now, instead of asking, quote, does this CPU support the, let me see, the AMP X CHGB16 instruction, the suggestion instead becomes one of, what the hell does V3 mean again? So no, we're not introducing the idiocy in the kernel, Linus. Anyway, he said, for those wondering, these x86 64 microarchitectural levels were introduced back in 2020 by Red Hat Florian Weimer. Initially, level A, B, and C were proposed, and later level D was added to. Then it said what these levels essentially do is classify CPU features in a temporal / chronological manner in an attempt to make it simpler to improve hardware and OS / software compatibility and synergy via better compilation optimizations. Anyway, it says here one x86 64 V2 brings support, among other things, for vector instruction up to streaming SIMD extension 4.2, and then in parentheses is SSE4.2. Then it says close parentheses and supplemental streaming SIMD extension 3, and then close and then parentheses with SSSE3. It says the POP CNT instruction, then in parentheses again, useful for data analysis and bit fiddling in some data structure, close parentheses. Then it says and CMXCHG16B, and then parentheses again, a two-word compare dash and dash swap instruction useful for current algorithm, close parentheses, dot. It says here, then number two, x86-64- version 3 adds vector instruction up to AVX2, and then it says MOV BE, then parentheses again, big Indian data access, close parentheses, and additional bit manipulation instruction. It says here, then number three is x86-64- version 4 includes vector instructions from some of the AVX-512 variants. Says here, Linus Torvald feels these architecture level makes things more convoluted rather than simplifying the matter, as linearizing the progression of the hardware instruction and feature is not a realistic approach. Then he says, says here, here Torvald does make sense given that we often find that certain CPU instructions like AVX may be present in some processor family, but it goes away later on. A recent example is Intel introducing AVX-512 in 11th gen Rocket Lake and then removing it later in succeeding generations. Then it says here, it's noteworthy here that Linus Torvald is now a luminary of the recent conceived x86 ecosystem advisory group, so his input can certainly hold some weight. And that's the end of the article. And then we got, let's see here, we got 31 debaters in the comment section. you know how they get. Let's see. Oh my, wow. This is crazy. Let's see. Who is this? What's this? Adrenaline said this. It does matter what he thinks. Linus must. No. It does matter what he thinks. Linux must conform to the most popular hardware, or it will wither and die. Yeah, that's why they remember with Ubuntu when they went from they went to the Pentium architecture. Yeah. Anyway, Microsoft, it says Microsoft played the game, Apple played the game, and so can Linux. And then it says software development works with the confines of your environments. If Linus wants to push change, distribution needs to become far more popular. That said, now people see the advantage of controlling software and hardware. Like Apple, they control every aspect of the ecosystem, and if the hardware doesn't do what they want, they change it to fit their needs. Oh man, and this comment is big. Let's see if I can tackle it here. Red said this: Linus' main issue isn't the kernel or HW support; it's the absolute idiocy of all the distros and all the fanboys who stubbornly jerk off the terminal 24/7. he said that Linux main issue that always prevents it from reaching any mainline audience when you have to spend 3 hours googling around for a outdated command, or B, totally impossible to understand noodles of commands that you blindly slap into terminal in a hope for the desired result, all for action that could be easily done via graphical user interface is a simple way as double clicking something, and add every time I met with but oh, it's easier with terminal. No, it's not. Instead of clicking a binary or right clicking it and select and run as to elevate its right, I have to use a terminal with total idiotic syntax and battle with he said moronic folders, structure and separation for users system space, and that of course I have to memorize or spend another 3 hours searching online for them. It's just mind-blowing how much time I always have to waste on searching for a solution that could be just clicks away. But no, you have to use terminal like it's 1980s all over again. It's end of 2024. This command prompt nonsense needs to die from consumer space. I don't care if server admins love it. It has absolutely no place in consumer oriented workstation distros. Also, unified binaries on Windows XE is XE. Here's everything is all over the place, and it's total nightmare to deal with. Anything that isn't official repository, and there always something you need that isn't there in every yeah. I am, because I am dealing with this in Linux for almost 25 years, and it's still exact same. It was 25 years ago, and I want proper alternative to Windows, and we're never going to get it because of terminal fanboys. Anyway, he said, and who was this? Warwagon said this. So much unformatted text. And then who was this? Adrenaline said this. That's not mentioning the ignorance. And who else is this? Sitting here laughing at these comments, but Otto said this. What about Windows registry? Not everybody understand. There is no even documentation. Oh, my motherboard died. I need a new one, but there is no the same reference. You have to pay a new Windows license plus a new motherboard, and if you're unlucky, reinstall all Windows. Who is it? And then Adrenaline said this. He say, that's not how it works. You can reactivate an existing license, and it's unlikely you even need to reinstall Windows. The only time a license wouldn't work for reactivation is an OEM lock key. Good point. Then who is this? Nif, who's a new Fuse said this. You can activate Windows on this similar hardware, and then he says in parentheses more than X number of component changes a few times with no issues. At the most, you call MS activation and have license transfers as long as it's not OEM. And then Becker, who is this? Becker. Becker went off. he says there's the Windows. Yeah, these guys they go out if Becker have a long comment. Let's see here. Let's get a couple of them. Says here. I think Soap said this, but I quite enjoy reading The Wall because I agree 100% with it. Who is this? But Becker said Windows registry is a hierarchical. What's this? Hierarchical, because that contains something, contains settings, includes libraries and apps to access it. It is a very easy to understand for anyone who takes 3 seconds to think about it. In a modern age of XML and JSON files with simple libraries and APIs to access it, it is somewhat unneeded. But in the distant past, when INI was the only standard and most apps used whatever arbitrary text format they wanted for config, the registry was worlds ahead. What does there is no documentation means? Are you still talking about the registry? Windows is pretty well documented. Having to add a random registry key is no difference than on the Linux side having to add a random time to a config file. Then he says, "Oh, my motherboard died." he said, "Where is he? Just missed him. Just missed him. Uh-oh. Where'd he go? I just had it." He said, "Oh, my motherboard died. I need a new one, but there is no the same reference. You have to pay a new Windows license plus a new motherboard, and if you're unlucky, reinstall all Windows." Broken English aside, this isn't true. If you have an OEM license for Windows, then yes, it might fail to activate replacing the motherboard, but it's a trivial issue to chat with support, explain what happens, and they will unlock your key. Sure, kind of annoying, but in grand scheme of things, is it's minor. I had to do that once on a Windows 7 computer, so I can say it works as expected. Didn't have to wait more than a few seconds on chat support. Explain I replaced the motherboard. They didn't have any more questions. Just unlock it. If you bought a retail copy of Windows, it's transferable to another system, so the motherboard swap would be no issue at all. Good point. And who was this? Let's see. Nick said this, but most of it is outdated information from what I can read. I have provided Linux distros to friends and families that are tech illiterate. They haven't had to use the terminal once. I do agree that package can be a bit of pain, though if a program isn't provided through the distribution software centered, you need to have a small understanding of what package your system used, and then installing them can be a hassle compared to Windows extension files. Look, when I use the terminal, man, I just use it for fun. You know, like if I'm doing some updates and I practice my little sudo commands, but that's what I use it for. I don't do it for nothing heavy. But anyway, who is this? Parallax said this. Oh, look, Torval is running his mouth again. Time for another story to amplify his outrage bait. I am all for advancement in CPU technology and possibly even architecture. Make the performance the same or better, and don't break backwards compatibility. Until then, I will stick with my Ryzen. And Bronny said this. I wonder if Linus has programmed a thing in the last 2 decades. I know that he coded in the past, but now he feels like one of those managers who programmed in COBOL decades ago, and now they want to force others to code in the same way. Linus has a lot of complaints and little or no collaboration. Also, x86 -64 version 4 includes vector instructions for some AVX 512 variants. It's not a feature, but it's not a feature that must be implemented in the kernel. The kernel commonly doesn't need it at all. Yeah, when Linus does his little complaints, man, it's funny. Anyway, Leon said this. The worst part is that the guy is treated like a god by many. He's just another human, a smart one, but human nevertheless. He can make mistakes and be wrong sometimes and talk. Anyway, and then who's this? Faust Taipei said this. I can't wait for better ARM compatibility for running x86 program like Apple does with its Max. x86 architecture is so inefficient and obsolete, and Apple has proven that. And then Leon came back and said, "Look, welcome to a world where everything is integrated to the SoC. That's our system on a chip." Says here, so forget about repairing and or upgrading anything. You're stuck with what you bought, and that's it. And if anything breaks, you have to replace the whole thing. That's the world you're asking for, and I personally hate it. I want to be able to upgrade my CPU, my RAM, my GPU, my motherboard, everything, not just the storage. And none of the current ARM offering allow that, less Apple. And then it says x86 is far from being inefficient and obsolete. It can run a ton of software that ARM can't right now and never will. The power efficiency problem can be fixed if Intel and AMD feel the heat from competition, and they are talking about ARMs trying to buy Intel. But anyway, let's see who else is this. Foz said this. Yeah, that's why I want ARM to succeed, so ARM and Intel can feel the so AMD and Intel can feel the heat. We're not going anywhere if ARM doesn't get into the mainstream market as Apple did with Macs. If running x86 software is a problem, nobody would be buying the new Macs. And regarding their repairability and upgradability, of course, I want those things to exist, but that's really different from what we currently have specifically in the laptop market. most of the Windows laptops comes with soldered RAM and storage. Yeah, because a laptop is not built like a desktop. But anyway, and have terrible performance and efficiency compared to Macs with ARMs. ARM will eventually take over the market. It's a reality because innovation eventually comes, not matter of what. Okay, let's see who else is this. Becker said this. In what way does ARM necessitate everything being on the SoC? AMD and CPU have been SoC for the last 5 years, and the world hasn't ended. Just because Apple chooses to make non-upgradable repairable system doesn't mean that it is backed into ARMs. Baked into ARMs. That's another good point. Anyway, and then Leon said this. I know that's why I wrote none of the current ARM offering allow that. But that power efficiency that everyone praising can only be achieved for now by integrated everything into a SoC. You can either have efficiency or modularity, not both. Another good point. Anyway, Becker said this, and as I was saying, that is wrong. Snapdragon new ARM CPU does not have RAM on the SoC. It uses LPDDR5X. It is true that LPDDR5X is not easily user replaceable, but it can be repaired by anyone willing to do a component level board repairs. You might claim it's basically the same thing, but in my opinion, you really can't blame ARM for LPDDR5X existing, considering that a large number of x86 systems use it as well. It is used for a good reason. It's really is much faster than normal DDR5, and really the only reasonable option if you want on unified video RAM VRAM. In that specific case, the finger should be pointed at the LPDDR5X standard group for not creating a modular version of the standard. Yeah, you learn a lot in this comment section. Anyway, it says, and then Merchek said this. So this is a Linux dev thing, but the headline is written to make it sounds like Intel/AMD hardware is the issue. Sad, pathetic excuse for editing, if in fact there is any at all. The Adrenaline said this. Okay, if you don't know who Torvald is, and then Skinny said, they called it whatever they want. We just need it to work reliably. And then who's this? Leg said this. Remember when he said NVIDIA and now NVIDIA is one of the most valued companies in the world, while every year it's the year of Linux desktop. Even on the crap that we got with Windows 11, people are not moving to Linux. Maybe less time talking about things that he can't do anything about, and more into making Linux a thing that people can embrace. So yeah, NVIDIA did jump on the AI train quick. They did. Adrenaline said this. And look at NVIDIA now, open sourcing their drivers and making improvements to accommodate Wayland, something they refused to do back when that happened. One action is unclear to the other. And then who was this? Duke. Duke said, that is the weakest bird ever. And then Adrenaline said, what does a strong bird look like? And then who was this? I'm almost done here. And then Parker said this. Mr. Torvald, we have a code of conduct these days, and such language is unacceptable. And our architect said this. He's simply commenting on the fact that some in the Linux dev community are trying to group CPU features into artificial product sets. He's simply saying, don't do that. Just address the capability/feature directly, as it's confusing otherwise. And then and then who was this? Satu Koro said this. Yeah, he's making a good point. Just being rude about it as usual. I wish they stopped using this one picture of him and grab something even remotely recent. And then Adrenaline said this. That would require more than minimal effort. Anyway, that's all that. That's it in a nutshell, man. But that's just Torval running his mouth, Linus. And he does make a good point, but the picture, I forget it. But anyway, Linux, Windows. Saga continues, man. Linus is just pointing out things need to change in the Linux, Linux community. So hope you developers heed the warning. That was 31 comments, and I went through all of them. So yeah, I had to do this for the Linux users. See what people are thinking here. But you learn a lot though in the comment section though. So even if you're not like up to date, it shows like people got like been around Linux for years. They understand it, and yeah, they could help like help you like catch up on things if you're behind a little. So yeah, and problem solving too. But other than that, man, Linus, they should have never used that picture though. They could have used, like they said in the comment section, they should have used something better. Anyway, I'm gonna leave this video for y'all to enjoy it. Nice talking to you people again. Crystal, Star Wars, and Star Trek saying, Dark Side. Go. Peace.